This Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip special 20th season, whatever it is, it's bringing us a lot of tea. I'm not going to lie. I've got a whole section on it for this week's episode. I don't really know exactly all the drama and everything that's happened, but scrolling and kind of reading up on stuff that's leaked on social media has given us some insights into possibilities. But there certainly have been some really interesting guests, former housewives that we haven't seen in a long time, and housewives who don't get along that well filming in the same room. So it is kind of cool to see it all unfolding on social media. And they've wrapped filming. So I got some information about that on this week's episode. I've also got some updates on the Kyle and Amanda breakup, and some Summer House news. I've got some Southern Charm news, some Real Housewives of Potomac, Married to Medicine, Salt Lake City, Vanderpump Rules, Old and New, Beverly Hills, OC. So, man, we've got a lot going on. And I even have some Traitors news. All right. So, stay tuned, everyone, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers, here with your host, Emily, also known as Bravo and Botox, to bring you some news, gossip, tea, word on the street, all that good stuff about Bravo. And happy February. It is officially February 1st, and the dreaded January is over. Sometimes I feel bad getting down on January because my birthday's in January and I'm like, maybe I should be more rah January. But listen, January is a slug. It's a slow struggle to the end, right? And it goes by so slowly, which it does. And February goes by nice and quick. I can't complain about that. We've only got 28 days and it's going to be a quick one. And I think when it comes to the winter and how cold it's been and all the stuff, horrible things going on in the world, it's kind of like, we need something to look forward to. We need some summer, we need some spring, we need some hope on the horizon for sure. So here to provide you with a nice distraction from all that, let's talk about some Bravo news. Okay, I think we should start with, which we should start with here. Let's start with some Summer House because, we had the whole big thing of Kyle and Amanda announcing their separation. And now, Summer House is going to be starting. Is that this week? Oh my God, it's this week, I think. It's this week, guys. And I think that because of that, they are doing lots of press. And Amanda, just like Kyle said they would, him and Amanda are, on the media tour together despite the separation and kind of giving us a little bit of insight. They're on the panels, they're doing the interviews, they're not sitting together, of course. And they answered a few questions. So one thing that Kyle said was, quote, "It was a very tough summer, especially for me. I just kind of spiraled many times, but Amanda and I are in a good place." He says, "This isn't about taking sides. I'm hoping people are kind and thoughtful. We've always put it all out there. It was a tough year for both of us." Amanda said, that they're getting along better. She said that, they share custody of the dogs. And, Kyle kind of joked, like, she still calls him for help with stuff around the house and in her apartment. So it seems like it seems like the vibes are good. Like watching them in the interview, it does. I'm not going to lie. Like from watching these interviews, if you haven't watched any of them online and you're just getting this kind of news from here, I'm not going to lie, the vibes are awkward to say the least. The vibes are awkward and you could tell that the rest of the cast feels awkward, but the vibes are not like we hate each other and we cannot even like coexist. So that's good, I guess, right? I'm trying to like give them some positivity here. And I think it seems like based on what I've seen from the little kind of previews and snippets of the upcoming season, it does seem like maybe more of the, I don't know. I don't know if I even should call it anger, but maybe like animosity is kind of coming from Amanda's side because she's just so frustrated with things that he's done. So I saw this clip of the new season. It was like a sneak preview kind of thing. So this is not a big spoiler, okay? But it is, I guess, like a little mini spoiler. It's from the premiere episode, but she's basically Amanda's talking to Sierra and she says, I heard about some other DJ guy. I can't remember the name now, but he's married, I think has kids. And basically he goes out, he does his gigs, he comes home as soon as like the gig is done, he packs up his stuff and goes home. And he doesn't stay after the gigs are done and party and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, yeah, like Kyle stays after, he parties, he's taking pictures, he's hanging out with fans, he's going to a different bar, going to an after party. So she was kind of like, even if his set is over, he stays for like the next DJ who's on after him. So, she's like, he's making that choice. He's not making the choice to go home after. And clearly that is where a lot of the problems are. Like there are like nuances to the situation. People are like, oh God, Kyle got a job as a DJ. But, if you really are committed, if that is a real passion and you're also really committed to your marriage and all that kind of stuff, like you could, especially like, I don't know, is Kyle the headliner for all his DJ shows or is he like an opener? I mean, I know he announced like some kind of tour, so maybe he is, I don't know. But he could play his sets and go home. That is an option, like he could not go to the after party. He could not be out till 4 a.m. and sleeping over at a fan's house. Like there are ways to, like, I was married to a bartender. I mean, we're still married, but he's not a bartender anymore. He's changed careers and now he has like a day job. So it's not the same. But for the first, 8 years of my marriage, he was a bartender and he would finish his shift and come home. And, like I knew when he would be home and all that kind of stuff. But if he had like finished his shift and then stayed and drank with the staff and partied and was not coming home till whatever, that would have been a very different story. You know what I mean? So I do think that was kind of a choice on Kyle's part. And I see why Amanda's bothered by it, quite frankly. So what else was there? Kyle is discussing the separation. And I have to say, like in every interview that I've seen, he's very much like, we don't need teams. And like, you can tell he does not want this breakup to go in the direction of Craig and Paige or, what's it called? Ariana and Tom Sandoval. I mean, it's never going to be like, that level. I think anyone with logic can see that because it's not like Kyle had an affair with like Sierra or something. Like it's not that situation, obviously, like Sandoval was. But, I do think that you can tell he's nervous about being the bad guy. And I don't know if that's a tell or an indicator that he is the bad guy and we're going to find out even more things that are going to just be like, ugh. Or if it's just the stuff we already know and he knows he's kind of like getting away with not as much backlash and hate as a lot of other guys on Bravo get. That's also possible. But then maybe it's going to come later once the season plays out. So I don't know. I guess we're going to see. But you can tell he's nervous. So he's putting out all these feelers / quotes of like, we don't need teams. Like, and it's like, okay, Kyle, listen, I get why you're saying that. But that being said, we'll be the ones who decide the way that if there's going to be teams or not. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but in this case, it's like, this is kind of the audience is going to watch what we're going to watch. And again, we do thank you for putting it all out there, but we're going to watch what we're going to watch. And if you did shitty things, you're going to get some backlash. I mean, then that's kind of the consequences of your actions. So, in other Summer House news, it seems like Carl and Lindsay are friends, or at least quite friendly again. So, during this whole press tour and stuff, there's kind of videos of the two of them joking around and having fun. So it does seem like, the world is healing and Lindsay and Carl can be friends again. So we do love that. They better not get back together because I cannot go through this again. I mean, granted, it would sure create a lot of drama, but it's just not a good situation. They need to not do that. It doesn't seem like they're going to, based on what I can see. Because on these tours and stuff, in addition to them seeming like they're friends again, Carl has been asked a lot of questions about if he's dating Vanita from Southern Charm. And it does seem like they're hanging out, like nothing is official or anything like that. But he has alluded to that, and that they, I think they met up. Where is it? I have the screenshot of it. Okay, so the two of them were at the same airport at the same time and were going to London at the same time. I don't know if it was for something Bravo related, but yeah, it does seem like they're maybe hanging out and dating, which, I mean, again, I've always said from the start, I actually think that they would make a good couple, but it does seem PR-ish, like it seems like a PR-ish relationship. It's like, I feel like everybody wants now that everyone sees like what it did for Craig and Paige's careers, I think everybody else is like, let's try that too. Like, now that people see how the fans reacted, but I don't know if I believe this is like a real thing yet. I'm going to need to see more than just like them hanging out once or twice and doing interviews and being like, yeah, we're talking, and like being coy or whatnot. So is there anything else oh yes, there is one last thing. How could I forget? So there's this creator who put up a video. So the creator is at Watch What Lisa Says. And she made this video and was talking about the divorce and all this stuff. And I guess was kind of saying things that were maybe sort of critical towards Amanda. So she was talking about how like Amanda's biggest mistake in the marriage was believing Kyle would change and going on all this kind of stuff. And, and it was more critical of like Amanda's role in the separation. And then Amanda, so she had like a reel about this and posted it on Instagram. And Amanda commented on it and said, girl, please in caps, you've been in Kyle's DMs for a year. Oh, okay. And this made its way to Reddit and I screenshotted it and I posted it on my Instagram story. And of course, a lot of followers were like, holy shit. But then I got a lot of DMs from people being like, I went to look and the comment is gone. So Amanda did delete the comment, but it was there. Okay, it was there. It was screenshotted. It was shared on Reddit and a lot of people were talking about it. And then, yeah, I guess after that, Amanda probably deleted it because she just, it's going to be like another thing for her and Kyle to like handle in the divorce. I kind of wish she'd left it up. I mean, I think, here's the thing with these comments, you can delete them all day. Like they were there. Once someone has seen it and screenshotted it, it's just too late. But I get maybe she didn't want it to get picked up by like Page 6 and stuff like that. But then they go to Reddit and they grab things from there as well. So there's really no avoiding it completely. But what I will say is that, I guess it would be kind of like, then maybe Amanda would have to answer questions about how do you know she was in Kyle's DMs? Was Kyle entertaining these DMs? Like, it does open that can of worms. So I guess that's maybe why she deleted it. And listen, we all have our moments where we're pissed off. We respond to something, especially if someone's like, you're getting separated and this creator is on here kind of like just looking at one side of it and you feel attacked. Like I could see why Amanda would be annoyed, especially when she does know that this girl was in her DMs, his DMs, allegedly. Okay. As a larger chested woman, one of my biggest issues is that I always need to be wearing a bra. But here's the thing, I want to be comfortable basically all the time. And, I go on these websites and I see these little triangle bralettes and things like that. And I'm just like, I can't wear that. It's just never going to work on me. And this is where Skims has come in and kind of saved the day, to be honest, because now with their Fits Everybody Scoop bralette, I am able to wear a bralette and it looks good. It doesn't give the dreaded like uniboob. It doesn't give the dreaded look of like it's all just meshed together and, you have no form and no shape there. It actually has support, but it's also comfortable and it looks really good. Like you don't lose your shape. And for me, that's important. And I want to look good in it. And I want to be able to nap in it. And I also want to be able to go to the grocery store and do all that stuff. So shop my favorite bras and underwear at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for your Valentine or for yourself, the Skims Valentine shop is now open. The new year is officially here, and I think we're all getting pretty tired of winter. I know I am. So I'm keeping myself cheerful by looking forward to spring and getting my house spring ready with Wayfair. Wayfair has everything I need to rejuvenate my house for spring. One thing I'm working on right now and hoping to have done by spring is I'm redoing our primary bedroom. It's always been super basic, but my husband's putting up some wainscoting. And once he's done, I'll be adding a gorgeous wallpaper that I got from Wayfair. They have so many options, like the original type, peel and stick, wall decals. So I got this gorgeous woodland wallpaper. It's very subtle and in a beautiful faded green, very calming, and it's perfect with the more traditional wainscoting we're doing. It was so convenient how many options Wayfair had for wallpaper and literally everything else home. Plus, the best part, free shipping, of course. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Let's talk about Southern Charm. So Charlie, one of the newer cast members on Southern Charm, was on virtual reality. And, there's a lot of this like kind of people guessing about like, are her and Sally as close as they once were now that they've been on the show? Because here's the thing. They came on the show. It seems like this is like one of Sally's best friends. They've been friends since prior to Southern Charm. Sally was on the show first and then brought Charlie on. So there's always that like tension when these situations happen of like, if Charlie's more liked by the audience or the group of friends, is Sally going to start being annoyed? And then they both liked Craig at one point. So whatever. But the point of the story is that it does seem like they're still friends now, but it can complicate your relationship, right? But they asked Charlie, does she think that Sally is a pick me? And Sally was like, well, yeah, I guess. But I think like because, Charlie's like, she doesn't seem like she's that comfortable with confrontation. But basically what Charlie said was, yes, but I think that Sally would admit that she's a pick me and I think she would own it. And then they all kind of laughed like, yeah, she would like stand in it, But that being said, even though maybe she would own it in like a funny way, like because of the chickens or whatever, the chicken situation. But all that being said, I don't know if Sally's going to like this. Like I could see this being something like, I don't think this friendship is going in a positive direction. I think that this is going to be like a storyline on this show. I think these two are going to butt heads. Maybe Charlie being more of a pushover and a little bit more or less confrontational, I should say. And I don't mean like pushover in an insulting way, but I just think that she's a little less like standing in her convictions. I think we've seen on the show, I think could lead them down a bad path. So anyways, just saying. Meanwhile, Rodrigo was on Watch What Happens Live and he was asked about the whole like, what does he think Audrey said to Austin in that moment at the party? And basically what he said was he thinks it's pretty obvious what Audrey said, but basically she let Austin have it. And she was right. He says, you know, he was letting Audrey float around the party without checking in on her, being with her even. And then meanwhile, he's at the bar flirting with Sally. And yeah, so she told him off, and that's what he deserves. And I agree. Because I mean, listen, I think any girl in Audrey's situation would be pissed. I would be certainly like to see that, because it's not only like you're at his friend's party. And listen, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, a couple goes to a party and you have to babysit the person. I don't think that's the case. But you should check in at the very least, and you shouldn't be not cheating, but you shouldn't be flirting with a girl who, you know, your girlfriend already feels kind of insecure about, because that girl has confessed that she thinks Austin's hot and would go for him the second you guys broke up. Like, that's just not a good feeling. And you should, if you know that, have your little conversation quickly and wrap it up. Right? Consider your girlfriend's feelings. Now, that being said, I think Austin is not considering those feelings, because I think he wants to break up with her anyways. And I think he's doing that guy thing that a lot of guys do, where they do stuff to piss you off, to try to get you to break up with them so that they don't have to break up with you, because they don't want to be the bad guy. And then Austin can be like, I got dumped. When he can whine and cry about it and try to be the victim, because that's exactly what he's doing. So let's just be honest. Okay. Andy also asked Rod about what is going on with Austin and Craig. And, you know, his answer is like nothing groundbreaking. However, Chanel Ion was the guest who was also on Watch What Happens Live that night. And she pipes in and says that Austin sent her a message and you know, sends her messages. And that he said, oh, well, my friend Rod is going to be, I think it was London or somewhere at the same time as him, and that he wishes he was going, and that Bravo should have paired up Austin with Chanel Ion. So, and then Andy was like, oh, so I'm like, you know, and Chanel's like, oh, Austin's so sweet, like, da da da. I don't know if she's like kind of ignorant or naive to his advances, or that she just thinks he's being like a nice coworker or whatever. But it seems like, you know, Andy's kind of interpreting it the way I was interpreting it, which is that he's hitting on her. But maybe in her head, she's like, no, he can't be. Like, he knows I'm married, like whatever. But no, he would. You being married doesn't matter, Chanel. Okay, he's coming. Rod then also says that the fight between them is mostly Austin's fault, because they all know how Craig is and they should just accept it, which I don't agree with. I don't particularly like I don't have a favorite between Austin and Craig. I don't really care like for either of them. Like, I don't, you know, hate either of them and want them off the show or anything. I think they're both really good, entertaining reality stars. And I think they're both, you know, annoying fuckboys who are self-involved and have way too much ego and entitlement and all that kind of stuff, as is all three of the Southern Charm guys. Now, that being said, in this particular situation, this season, I'm actually leaning more towards Austin's side. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, because I know a lot of people are on Craig's side. I do see Craig's side of things, but I think like I do, like I know Austin is being messy and causing problems, but like, I don't know, I just find it kind of entertaining. And I also think that Craig, I don't know, like I think Craig is being weird with this whole like addiction thing. It's like, you can't, like, I thought it was weird last season. He's talking about being an alcoholic while he's drunk and drinking from a bottle of champagne. Like, it doesn't make sense to me either. I see that. That being said, I think Austin is antagonizing Craig. I also think that Craig has an issue with blowing up and rage. So I see both sides, but I am leaning more towards Austin's side just in the last maybe like couple episodes. But yeah, anyways, they're both at fault. I think we all kind of know that inside, right? All right, let's go to some Real Housewives of Potomac news, because we do have a few things that have been going on the social media. So one thing that came across my feed that I think is so crazy, is that some people have been going on Angels, what's it called? Wanderlust, like wilderness tours business on Yelp and giving it bad reviews. Okay. So for example, hang on, let me find one. You know, RHOP fans, I guess, are leaving negative Google reviews on Angel Massey's business Wonderland Outdoors based on the show's edits. So somebody wrote 1 star, and then they wrote, based off of what you provided the ladies on RHOP, I would never use your services. How do you not know how to provide basic needs, get everyone to where they need to go, and just be a good host? I think you definitely need to attend a course in hospitality. Yeah, I mean, that is crazy to me. Like, I just don't know how anyone can be in the mindset that they've really experienced and seen a business in its true form based on, you know, what is a few minutes. Really, okay, fine. I guess we could give it like an hour of time it's had on. It was like 2 episodes on RHOP, and not even the whole episode is based on like the actual, you know, experiences or fishing or whatever they're doing. A lot of it is like just them hanging out, doing whatever, but, or at Angel's house and whatnot, or at Kimosabi and stuff. Like, not all of those episodes were about her business, but really it comes down to like, you know, and I'm being generous, less than 2 hours of footage. And it's also, they're making a TV show. Okay. You know, we don't know what is going on exactly behind the scenes. We don't know how much production has their hands in things, how much, you know, is being exaggerated, how much is being left out. Like, we don't know all the facts. So, and I am not like an Angel stan, nor do I even care for her that much in terms of like, oh, I need to come defend her and da da. Like, I don't mind her. Listen, I want her on the show. I think she's made her like gong show of a trip and all this kind of stuff has made excellent television. And I think she's actually brought a lot to this season, surprisingly. But that being said, like, for people to actually go on and be giving her business bad reviews and leaving it because of a television show, like, you know, I hate to use this cliche saying that the kids use, but like, you need to touch grass and realize that, you know, this is a produced television show. Okay. And yes, do real things happen on it? And did she make some mistakes, etc.? Yes. But you shouldn't be leaving a review unless you've actually, you know, used her services firsthand and can speak to it. Like, give me a break. So Angel did put up a post on Threads and she said the following. I've read a lot of loud and wrong things that I feel the need to clear up at this point. Number one, Wonderland Outdoors does not offer overnight accommodations. The rental home on RHOP is not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with our business. I mean, there you go right there. Like, they do like outdoors wilderness excursions, like the rental house. Yes, this was Angel's trip, but it was not like her Wonderland Outdoors full trip experience. It was an RHOP trip at the end of the day. Okay. So again, that just makes it even stupider that people are leaving these reviews. Then number two, she says Wonderland Outdoors does not have a physical headquarters. We offer fly fishing on land. We have lease agreements on and agency issued, think National Park Service, Forest Service, etc. permits. Our partner Horse Ranch is where we offer horseback riding. We also offer guided hikes and snowshoeing on land that we have permits to operate on. This is exactly like a lot of outfitters, especially in this day and age where new outfitters don't have fly shops. Number three, we are opening a headquarters in the near future. In the meantime, the closest city to where I live is where our office is. It's indescribably sad for people to lie about a business I've built from the studs. We employ Black and brown people in an industry dominated by cis white males. We work in so many communities in Colorado to offer free outdoor education. We empower our guides by paying tuition on licensing, further education, and equipment. I founded Wonderland to see more people like me in this industry, and the effort from certain folks to bring it down, A, won't happen, and B, is shameful. Now, y'all have a nice snow day. I haven't said all I could because that's not my way. Keep the comments to me and not the business that supports so many. I mean, I think that's a good statement. And I have to be honest, I agree with her about everything. Now, the one kind of pushback that I guess people could have is like, this is sort of part of the risk that you take when you bring your business on a television show like this. Like I do think that people come on this show. I think sometimes housewives come on these shows to simply to promote a business and grow a brand. And they kind of assume they know what they're doing and they can navigate things and they can control the narrative, etc. And an Angel is learning the very, very hard way that that is not always true. And that it, as much as it can go in a positive direction for your business, like it has for some housewives and reality stars, it can also go in an incredibly negative direction. And, if I had some time to sit and think about it and come up with a few examples, I would say there are some who, it's gone in a really negative direction. I think for the majority, it's just like a moot point. Like the majority of housewives who try to start a business, it just doesn't really go anywhere. But there are those like exceptions of where it's successful. And then on the other end, the exceptions of not only is it not successful, it's like ridiculed and criticized. And unfortunately, Angel falls into that category. And there is like a certain amount of trade off with these shows. It's like people want, and I've gotten angry at other housewives about this before. It's like they want the fame, the money, all the positives, the free advertising for their business, this, that, the other. But then when the negatives come, it's complain, complain, complain. So I can understand people's perception. Like I can understand that side of the argument. But what I do not understand and what I do not support is people deliberately going out of their way to trash a business on Yelp or on Google reviews that they've never actually used. Okay. Like, unless you see on the show that the business is like abusing people or doing something illegal or super unethical, like, come on. But that is not Angel's business. Like, it's just her business. It seems like it's a good idea. It's one of the more unique businesses that we've seen on Real Housewives. Like, I'm kind of just happy it's not another like makeup line or hair extensions or, like the list goes on of the kind of cliche ones, alcohol, whatever. At least she's doing something unique. And it's clearly a business she had from before she was on the show. So for people to go on and do this, I think is really messed up. And honestly, shame on those people. So they need to get a life. So Tia came to Angel's defense and wrote on her Instagram story, "Nothing prepares you for how cruel the internet can be when you choose to share your life publicly. Seeing what's happening to Angel, I feel compelled to say something. What happened in Colorado was unfortunate, but attempting to harm her business through false or malicious reviews crosses a line. This is a television show meant to entertain, to make you laugh, cry, and yes, sometimes feel frustrated with us. What would compel someone to take it beyond that? Albeit behind a TV screen, Angel is a person first, a mother, a wife, a daughter, and a friend. Imagine if this were happening to your livelihood, tearing down a business you've never been a patron of. Haven't we taken this too far? The world is already quite a hard and difficult place. These shows are to offer an escape. The intention is not to create more harm and hate." And yeah, I agree with Tia on that as well. Like, I think, you're allowed to criticize Angel. You're allowed to watch the show and be like, she really messed up this trip. Oh my God. We're allowed to make jokes, whatever, memes, whatever we want. But like to like deliberately try to take down someone's business is crazy behavior. Okay. It just is. And again, I can't believe anyone's mad about it. Like, if anything, if I was going to do a review, I'd give her 5 stars. Because not only is she running this business, she created the best season of Potomac in years. This trip was such a gong show. It was hilarious to watch. This was one of the funniest seasons. I laughed my ass off every episode. There's so many quotable moments. Like, I'm like, give her 5 more seasons of contracts. Like, I don't know why people are mad. Like, people need to start seeing more of the humor in these shows. like the fact that people actually get angry about this is so crazy to me. I can't even put myself in that mindset. It's insane. Okay, what else do we have from Real Housewives of Potomac? So Stacey Rush and Dr. Heavenly were on Watch What Happens Live, and they reacted to Quad kind of, giving a little bit of clap back to Giselle. Okay, last week on Watch What Happens Live. So if you listen to my last news episode, I played the clip where Quad was kind of like, okay, you guys were saying things about Married to Medicine. And just so you know, we're the top ratings or like we have higher ratings and all that kind of stuff. And Giselle was sort of like, whoa, that was Robin. But now Stacey and Dr. Heavenly were kind of responding, like, what did they think of that? They laugh. Stacey thinks it's amazing, of course. And Stacey's like, I loved every minute of it, right? Because obviously she's, not a big fan of Giselle. So they kind of talked about that. And Dr. Heavenly said that she thought that, Quad did the right thing and that Giselle needed to be told. And I just saw the earlier today when I was scrolling that actually Robin and Giselle have issued an apology on their podcast Reasonably Shady. So Robin specifically was apologizing for what she said and how she kind of, maybe if she offended anyone from Married to Medicine, etc. So I guess there will be no squash that beef at the next BravoCon because they've settled that. I have to say, I never feel truly put together until I have a manicure. It just makes me feel better, gives me more confidence, but I'm so bad at doing them and I can't afford to be going to the salon all the time. And that's why I love Olive and June. I got their gel mani system and it has changed my life. I love not having to make an appointment at the salon and being able to do it as nice as the salon, but at home for way less money. Olive and June's gel mani system comes with everything you need for salon quality nails in one box. A 5-finger LED lamp, salon grade tools, and their HEMA-free gel polish that lasts up to 21 days. And they have an incredible selection of colors. Cashmere Kiss and Blush Jelly are my personal faves. And the best thing about Olive and June is how professional it looks compared to when I've tried to do it myself. It's honestly day and night. And I love being able to sit on my couch, watch The Real Housewives, relax, and do my nails. A dream. So visit oliveandjune.com/Bravo Papers for 20% off your first system. That's oliveandjune.com/BRAVOPAPERS for 20% off your first system. Meanwhile, on that same Watch What Happens Live episode, Stacey reacted to Giselle saying that Stacey would have gone for Mauricio if she'd had the chance. So this was an audience question. And Stacey's response was, number one, hilarious because she delivers it in she's got so much like poise, and she like delivers it in this like very pageant way. And Andy even after is like, did you ever do pageants, But she basically says that she's in a relationship where she feels safe and supported. And Giselle just doesn't know what that feels like. And then she does her little like pageant smile at the end. It was hilarious. And I think that's a great comeback. That is really the most solid comeback you can have when it comes to Giselle. Stacey also said in regards to Andy's interview with Karen that she was blown away. She feels like it was so raw and that it knocked her off her feet. I don't know if everybody agrees with that now that it's been viewed by the audience, because I'm seeing a lot of negativity surrounding it. But yeah, I'm not going to be discussing it on this week's episode, but I will be discussing it. So I'll say that on next episode or sooner. That's what I can tell you for now, because I don't want to make I don't want to nail down a specific exact date or anything yet, because I'm working on it. Okay, let's just say that. But I did watch it. I have mixed feelings about it. That's what I'll say. I'm not in the camp of like it was completely deflection and bullshit, but I'm also not in the camp of it was like a good interview and she's taking full accountability. My opinion lies a little bit in the middle, I would say. Okay, so what should we talk about next? Let's talk about some Married to Medicine because same episode of Watch What Happens Live, Heavenly was on. And I just have kind of one note from that episode in terms of what she said, but she said that Simone, in terms of the whole VIN number drama, if you're watching this season, which I'm sure you are if you're listening right now, in terms of the whole VIN number things, Heavenly says that she really didn't know why Quad was so mad. She didn't think it was that deep. And she also doesn't even understand why Simone is so mad at it about it because she says that the VIN number, Simone had looked that up last season, but they didn't air it. So I guess she's kind of feeling like, why is Quad so like mad / surprised? And she said she didn't understand why Simone was so mad at her. So, I have to say, like watching Dr. Heavenly on this episode of Watch What Happens Live, you can tell she's running for office. Like she is being a lot more, even though at the end of the day, it's still Dr. Heavenly. Okay. So even on the show this season, even though she was running and all that kind of stuff, she still didn't completely edit herself. And I do still think that she, you know, lets things fly out of her mouth sometimes that maybe she shouldn't and all that. But you could tell on this episode of Watch What Happens Live, I felt like she was a little bit more, I don't know, like subdued than she normally is and maybe holding back and giving more edited kind of PR type answers for sure. Okay, what should we go to next? Let's talk about Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip because filming is, I think it is officially wrapped. They had their kind of like final party. The final party for Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip was at Bluestone Manor with Dorinda hosting and a whole bunch of the, OG housewives all dancing and having fun. And Andy Cohen actually stopped in. And there was a few other surprises along the way. There's some people who've been complaining about like how much of it has been shown on social media and stuff like that. But it's not like there's like we're getting all these spoilers about like what the fights are about and if there are fights. Like we're more just getting pictures of them in various locations. There has been a couple leaks about like, maybe a little argument here and there, but even like of the two that I've seen, one of them turned out to be BS anyways. So yeah, so I'm not that concerned about it, but whatever. But yeah, they have stopped in Beverly Hills for Kyle's white party. They went to Miami. They went to Atlanta, and there was like a costume dress up party. What else did they do? Yeah, so they've been all over the place. Those are kind of the ones that I have photos of here. Couple other things that have been exciting is that Alex McCord flew in from Australia for this. So I think we were all pretty disappointed with the Morocco season because we didn't get to see Alex McCord and she was supposed to be on that season. But they have brought her in and she got to film and we love that. And Andy sat down and did an interview with her on Radio Andy and stuff. I haven't listened to all of it yet, but yeah, it's really cool that she came in because we haven't heard from her in forever. So it would be nice to get an update. The other thing that I just saw today is that Gertie has revealed that she was not included in the Miami stop. Okay. So they did all these stops on the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip and they stopped in Miami, but Gertie was left out of that. Okay, so let me give you the quote from her, what she said. So she said, truthfully, I wasn't contacted for the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, and it was surprising, especially since I've been a part of the reboot from the very start. It would have been nice to be included and celebrate the milestone, but what matters most to me right now is staying locked in on me and the here and now. Okay, so she was this was reported. I saw this on Instagram. I'm not sure exactly which interview the quote is from, but it also said in the caption from @Bravo Snarkside, Gertie is only referring to the Miami stop of RHUGT, not the whole season. So when I saw that, I was like, does that mean she's on another part of the season? Because if she's still in the season, I don't know if she has as much of a leg to stand on when it comes to complaining about this, but I can understand being annoyed that you're left out of like your city. You know what I mean? Especially since like that's kind of where you and the Miami girls get more attention and filming and all that kind of stuff. Now, was Julia in those pictures? Like, I'm just going back to the Miami pictures of all the Real Housewives, and I do see, who do I see? I see Marisol, Alexia. Those are the only Miami housewives I see. So if in the Miami leg of the trip, if like Lisa Hochstein and like Adriana, if they're not there as well, then I don't know if Gertie has as much, you know what I mean? As much of a leg to stand on when it comes to complaining. I'm really using leg as the metaphor of the day. But I don't know. Yeah. If they were all included and she was left out, then yeah, that is messed up. But it could just be that they wanted like maybe the two like kind of lead anchors of the show, which kind of Marisol and Alexia are, whether you want to admit it or like them or not. It's kind of true. Let's just be honest. And then there were some like fun surprises as well in other places, like Eileen Davidson was at Beverly Hills. We haven't seen her in a while. Camille Grammer. I mean, we do see Camille because every time frickin' Beverly Hills is boring, they call Camille in to shake things up, and she usually does a good job. And then one of the other things that was like very shocking was on the Atlanta stop, Candace Dillard was there. Okay. And she was in the presence of Giselle and Ashley, who we know Candace is not a fan of. But she was there. Apparently, her and Stacy chatted and they got along beautifully. And there was some rumors going around that Candace got into it with Giselle and Ashley, whatever. But apparently, that is not true. So it has since been debunked by Candace herself, who said in an interview, I think with Andy actually on Watch What Happens Live, said that no, nothing happened with her and Giselle and them. So, don't believe kind of all the like rumors and word on the street from the season that you hear on the internet. So that's good to know. All right. So we look forward to watching that season. They're done filming, so maybe that means we're going to actually get to see it soon, and I can't wait. Now, speaking of Candace Dillard, I do have some Traitors US news. I know I usually do all Bravo stuff here, but our Bravo stars are on there, so we need to cover it. So by the way, spoilers. Okay. I'm recording this. It's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. The new episode is on. If you're not caught up on last week's, that's kind of on you at this point. But that being said, I'm giving you a fair warning. Spoilers ahead from last week's episode. Okay. So the most recent episode. So check the timestamps of this episode before you listen so you can skip ahead. Okay. So as we all know, a lot of the internet is not loving Colton. Okay. Myself included, if I'm going to be honest. And I guess there's been some, online bullying and people kind of shading him and making memes and, the internet doing what it's doing. And obviously Lisa Rinna, maybe not the biggest fan of Colton. Okay. So at Gibson Johns reposted a tweet about it. And the tweet said, "This is who Colton thinks he's slick up against. Good luck, buddy." And then it's a GIF of Lisa Rinna being like, "Were people doing coke in your bathroom?" So Lisa Rinna then replied to this. And she said, "Let's talk about you being a stalker," in reference to Colton. Okay. And then she commented again and said, "Careful what you wish for. You just might get it." Which I'm sorry. I thought it was kind of funny because, yeah, like he's like, "You're not being like Lisa Rinna and you're not being like extra and being like, the housewife that we know that's doing this and that and that and this and whatever." And it seems like he had this kind of image of like what she needed to be in his head, and now she's like, "Careful what you wish for," right? Because I will call out stuff such as, "Let's talk about you being a stalker," right? Because a lot of people know that he has that on his record from his ex that he was engaged to on his season of The Bachelor before he came out. And there was a restraining order granted against him for stalking. I guess, do I need to say alleged stalking? If there was alleged stalking, just in case. Now, that being said, I guess the online bullying, pushback, hate against Colton. I don't know if it got out of control. I don't know if Colton and his people probably reached out to Traitors and production. But the Traitors US Instagram posted, "We are committed to making our cast feel safe, respected, and supportive on screen and off. The cast of the Traitors are real people, and what happens in the game should never lead to cyberbullying or harassment. There's a difference between discussing a show and targeting individuals. Let's not ruin the passion for this show with unwarranted negativity and personal attacks. We appreciate your support." Okay. And then Lisa Rinna urged fans to leave Colton alone. So soon after that post came up, I'm sure she got spoken to. As I'm sure Lisa Rinna has been spoken to many times by production of various television shows. She got spoken to by production, I'm sure, of the Traitors, and she made like a video of herself, in her car, just kind of being like, "Guys, it's a TV show. We have fun." And she says, "I put my housewives cap on and started kind of, you know, popping off on social media, but I don't want anyone to like bully him or for him to be harassed or anything like that." I mean, to defend Rinna, which I don't usually do, she does come from like the housewives world where, kind of giving your thoughts on the show and like clapping back and all that kind of stuff is sort of like part of housewives. I mean, granted, Rinna is one of the ones who went too far with that. And there definitely are housewives who it feels like have gone too far with that for sure, especially in regards to like the whole thing with Garcelle and her son and all that. But, I can understand why, like, for her, it is kind of like second nature to be like, "Oh, let me make a comment on social media and, you know, keep the audience entertained. Are you not entertained?" Right. So I can see that Rinna kind of thinks that way and probably doesn't think of it. She doesn't realize maybe too that like Traitors has maybe I don't know, do they have a wider audience? It's kind of like what you're getting with the Bravo audience. Although the Bravo audience can be really psycho. The Bravo audience it's funny because I hear the people on Traitors from other franchises and stuff being like, "Oh God, the Bravo audience is the worst." So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have no point here. But what I will say is that maybe her being in the public eye for so long and being an actor, housewives, like she's more like ready to tackle all this stuff and can kind of take it. And maybe Colton just can't as much. I mean, that being said, if people were making like legit threats and like being crazy and stuff, then obviously, I think it's a good thing for them to speak out against that. Okay, let's talk about some Vanderpump Rules news. Okay, and this is a mix of old and new Vanderpump Rules. Okay, so Sheena Shea is defending Katie Maloney, of all people, after the reboot cast, I'm sorry, I don't know what I just said, seemingly shades Katie. So basically, two of the new guys, specifically Chris Hahn, were doing like what's it called? Like a podcast interview thing. And they started talking about they were asked a question about the former cast and Katie Maloney's name was brought up. And he said that basically, "I don't know who Katie Maloney is," or "I don't know who Katie is." So the interviewer asked them, "What do you think about like, Katie Maloney," who is, again, former cast member. They don't say that, though, the interviewer just says, "What do you think of Katie Maloney saying that the reboot feels cheap?" Because I guess that was what she said on her podcast. And then he was like, "Well, I don't know who Katie is." And then the two of them were going on about how, like, they're just trying to be themselves and, they're not trying to be like the old people on the show, or they're not trying to like make it exactly like whatever. Right. So they give their like PR answer, etc. And then Sheena came into the comments and said, "Give me a break. I don't know who Katie is. These boys," in caps, "need to show some respect to an OG who paved the way for them. What a joke." I mean, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I agree with Sheena. Now, that being said, do I think Sheena is writing all of this to try and like get back in the audience's good graces because, you know, it only took her like 5 years to realize that she's always on the wrong side of everything. Probably, but you know, she's still right about this. And then Katie commented, losers. Short and sweet and to the point. So then Katie did comment and kind of like add more context to what she was saying. And she said, I said the rebooting. So she said this in reply to Chris Hahn. She said, I said the rebooting felt cheap before it came out. But you know what? I was right. Give your cousin a kiss for me. And then he replied to Katie, Chris Hahn, and he said, haha, okay, that was a good one. You know, I didn't mean any intent. Oh, he knows he's lost. You can already tell here, right? You know, I didn't mean any intentional disrespect in any way whatsoever. Also, you know how these things can get clipped. I explained more of my response to your input on the reboot, but they didn't show that at all. Oh, it was editing. They didn't show it. My podcast interview got clipped. You don't have the full context. We've heard it all before. And then it's funny because Jasmine from the Valley piped in and she commented, the lies, LOL. I'm actually cracking up because when I was working at SUR, they were trying to bring in new people for season 10. And this dude was literally one of the people they had come in to quote unquote work with us. That was in 2022. So now he's on the reboot acting like he doesn't know who Katie is. Yeah, okay. Doesn't add up. Anyways, that's my 2 cents nobody asked for. Oh, I mean, shots fired and she hit the target. And then Kristen Doty replied and said, at Jasmine Good. I asked, I just forgot to tell you, this dude is a joke. And then Katie replied and said, at Jasmine, this part, LOL. So yeah, he got destroyed by the OG cast, which of course he did, which is why I just, you know, like I get that you're going on a reboot and you don't want to be compared to the original. And you can say over and over again, we're not trying to be the original, just treat the show as its own thing. I actually get all of that and I actually agree with it all. But one thing that I'm going to say is like, if you're going on one of these shows and you know you have the stigma of the original being like legitimately maybe the best reality show of all time, you need to just pay homage to it. Ignoring it and pretending you don't know what it is and you don't know who the cast is and you know you're not plugged into that and you authentically are just some ignorant guy that works at SUR that is like, "Huh, I don't know who Katie is." Like that's just not the way to play it. And this cast needs to just change their tune. Like you need to just be like, man, the original cast, they are icons, legends. They made such a great show. You know, we're not trying to ever be on their level. We know we won't, but you know what? We have interesting stories to tell. We have our own perspectives. We're all trying to make it just like they were. Like, that's how you have to play it. And I don't know. I guess they don't have PR people yet. I don't know. Because I know there was another guy from that show who also kind of made like a snarky comment about it, about like not being the OGs or something, but it wasn't in like a respectful way. So I don't know. They need to get it together. Okay. Okay, now we do have some Real Housewives of Orange County news because Gretchen Rossi is not returning to RHOC for season 20. Everyone else is back except Katie Janela, as we know. And yes, Tamara's back, etc. I don't know. I'm glad she's fired. I don't want Gretchen on the show. I'm not surprised that she's fired. Like I was just kind of like, to me, that was a given after everything that happened last season, as much as like some of the cast tried to help her rehabilitate and as much as the reunion was just complete BS. And I don't know why Andy and others were supporting Gretchen so much. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, I can't relitigate all of that. But what I will say is that I expected her to be fired. I'm glad she's fired, but I'm still not satisfied because Katie was fired. And I really just think that was such a bad move. Like I hate it. I just hate it. I hate it. And I don't know. I'm not really like excited for Vicky to come back either. I think that's a mistake. I understand her being on the Ultimate Girls Trip because it's like 20 years of Housewives and she's like the the OG of like the first show. So I do get that, but I don't think we need her on OC. Like the last couple times she's been on, even as a friend, I've been like, meh. I don't think she's really adding anything. And I think she's just like toxic. Like, I don't know. I don't need Vicky, okay? In other OC news, it seems like there is going to be a sort of next gen LA. It seems like there's hints of that, specifically coming from Heather Dubrow's son. So there's a picture of him. It says Nick Dubrow on the Watch What Happens Live door. So I guess he was on Watch What Happens Live. And then Heather comments and said, this should be interesting. Hashtag lights, camera, action. And then Jen Pedranti replied and said, I love this for you both. You look beautiful and Nick is so handsome. And then Tamara says, so excited for Nick. And then somebody or virtual reality from Page 6 replied and said next gen LA, because they also posted a picture of it's Heather and Nick at home. It looks like they're at home and there's a camera crew and filming. Okay. So that could be something. Am I like excited about Nick Dubrow as a cast member? Not particularly. Like, I think that there are certain housewives' children who are like really dynamic and like interesting to watch on camera and who I do want to see what they're doing and I am interested in them. Is Nick Dubrow one of them? Absolutely not. Like, there is not one memorable moment of him for me on OC or anywhere else where I'm like, wow, can't wait to see him. Like fine, maybe he'll be good with a good dynamic cast. He'll be a good cog in that machine. I don't know, but I don't know. I've always kind of found like I remember some of her other children stand out way more to me than him. Granted, maybe they didn't want to be on the show. I don't know, or they're too young or whatever the case is. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't even know if this is true, but I feel like Heather just wants to make her family happen so badly. And like outside of like their little appearances on OC, I think they're just not that type of family. They're just not exciting enough. It's kind of like who's the other one who tried to make their family happen and it just wasn't happening? Oh, Kyle Richards. Like when they were all like I enjoy watching them for the most part, like, you know, on Beverly Hills. But when they tried to do that whole show on Netflix with Mauricio that failed, like her kids are just like, there's nothing wrong with them. They seem like fine people, I guess. They're just not like exciting dynamic. They're all super monotone and they're just kind of boring. And yeah, it's just not, doesn't make for great television. I'm sorry. Last piece of OC news here. Tamra says that in an interview that after how they treated her last year on OC, she's going to go in and blow things up. I think that is her way of trying to get us all to watch. Now, that being said, it's Tamra, so of course she's going to blow things up. And then she was asked, like, what, you didn't blow things up last year? And she's like, no, they just came after me, because that's like so Tamra to say that. Which, like, I hate to say this, but I do kind of agree with her. I wouldn't say she blew things up last year. The year before, she definitely blew things up. Last year, she was more on the defense because the year before, she came off so terribly. So last year, she kind of like, it was more like them coming at her. And then she blew up when she reacted. And she still, don't get me wrong, she still did terrible things last season because it's Tamra. But I guess she's saying like, you know, that was the nice Tamra last season. No more Mrs. Nice Judge. I'm coming in. And I don't know, maybe she knows that, you know, people aren't super happy with Vicky. You know, I think with all the stuff happening with ICE and so many Bravo Labs speaking out about it, which I absolutely commend them for doing that. And I'm pretty sure Vicky, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she had a post that was supportive of ICE. So I think, you know, and it's just like, do we want that person on TV right now with everything that's going on in the world? I mean, I don't know. I don't need that. I don't really want that, to be honest. So, you know, maybe Tamara's trying to, grudge up some excitement about the show, because I think Tamara knows as well that people are disappointed that they fired the only woman of color and that Katie's not on the show. Like, I could see all of that being true. So yeah. All right, let's go to some Beverly Hills news. This is the most insane story and terrifying. So, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to poor Garcelle. I know she's no longer on the show, but she'll always be a Beverly Hills housewife. Okay. So Garcelle Beauvais terrified as cops respond to swatting call. So I didn't know what this was, but I have learned about it and I hate that it's even a thing. But apparently this is like a thing people, and I don't know, people who are complete idiots and jerks are doing, which is like kind of like a prank where they basically make a bogus 911 call and they claim that there's someone with a weapon in a home so that like SWAT team goes to the home, right? So somebody made a bogus 911 call claiming there was a man with a weapon at Garcelle's Los Angeles home. Okay. So obviously that is extremely scary, but basically police received the call that there was a possible assault with a deadly weapon and shots fired. Okay. The caller claimed to be Garcelle's ex-boyfriend and said he was armed with a sawed-off shotgun. So officers arrived at the scene. The caller refused to meet with them. They searched the property. They found no evidence of a crime and determined that the incident was swatting. But what makes it really scary is that Garcelle was home and she was home alone when they arrived. She didn't know what was going on. She had no context of it. Um, they called her outside. They were like putting her in handcuffs, like all that kind of stuff. And she was like kind of yelling out like, I don't have a weapon, I'm the homeowner, like etc. And I saw her on doing an interview on like a daytime talk show about this, and like her voice was shaking. She was so upset. Like she's like, I had all these like weapons pointed in my face, like police weapons. I'm home by myself. I'm literally in my pajamas. I have to come down, like get down on the ground, be put into handcuffs. And even she was like, I'm the homeowner. I don't have it. And they knew that. She said that the police officer said to her, like, we have to cuff you. Like it's protocol in these situations, in swatting situations. And like, she was like, I didn't know if I was going to get shot. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I was terrified. And, she's like, if you are out there and you're, some kid or whoever who thinks this is funny, like it's not, it's absolutely traumatizing. Like, thank God none of her kids were at home or like whatever. Like, anyways, whoever did that is a piece of shit. And I hope they find out who it is. I hope they can, like, I thought they could trace where 911 calls come from, but I hope they find who that person is, and I hope they go to jail for the rest of their life, because that is just such a disgusting thing to do. And someone could get killed, like seriously, and clearly it's like a targeted, premeditated thing. Like that's not a prank. That's just insanity. So thank God Garcelle is okay and nothing came of that. Like in terms of like there was no one was injured or hurt or anything. And as Garcelle even said in the interview too, it's also a waste of police time and resources and money. Like, what are we doing? Okay. All right. What else we got? I think we have maybe one more thing today. Oh, yes. We have one piece of news out of Salt Lake City. Now, Monica last week, I believe, made another TikTok because we know Monica Garcia likes to make TikToks and reels. She's all about that. And she said, and this was after the third part of the Salt Lake City reunion, okay, where they were talking about Heather and, Meredith kind of made a claim that Heather gave her like, or has given her pills before. And then Heather was like, well, what pills? I gave you like a sleeping pill for the plate, like whatever. They got into all that. So Monica said in her video, basically, well, she doesn't say, but she kind of wrote it on the screen or whatever, but it says, and now we've entered a real conversation, Heather and her drug distribution. So, I mean, that can be interpreted in many ways. It could be like drug distribution, as in like, here is a Xanax or here is an anti-nausea pill, like the literal term of distribution, like I'm physically handing you something. It can be interpreted as like drug dealing in a more, if we're looking at it in a more accusatory way. Obviously, Monica is a part of all of Monica's posts is like trying to get attention, is making waves on social media, getting people talking. She wants to get back on the show, I'm sure, all that kind of stuff. And she obviously has a vendetta against Heather. And I don't actually blame her for that, because I do think she could have come back for another season. And I think it was specifically Heather who was barring that. Like, I think the rest of the cast was kind of would have been a little bit more willing to film with her and to, give her another chance. But Heather was like, no, no, right? So do I think that Heather is a quote unquote drug dealer? No, I don't. Do I think that it's possible that, maybe when people are like, oh God, I'm so nervous or have anxiety, she's like, here, take one of my Xanax. Like, maybe she plays a little fast and loose? Do I think maybe she could possibly encourage people to like, here, have another shot, whatever? Yeah, actually, I do. Because you can tell that Heather's only goal in this life is to make a show. Her whole identity is this television show. Like, I think this show means, and I think it means the world to a lot of them. And I think a lot of them are desperate to stay on these shows. But I think for her, it's like extra. It feels like she has nothing going on, as we see by her lack of storylines. She has nothing going on outside of being on this show. And she's almost like a Real Housewives super fan whose like goal it is to just produce like the best franchise. And I think ever since she had her receipts proof timeline, whatever moment on Salt Lake City, she is chasing that high again. It was like people in the White House were saying it. It was on Google when you looked it up. Like, I think that was her one iconic moment, and she's chasing that high. And I do think that she would maybe distribute things to get the ladies to loosen up and make better TV. I really do. And I'm not trying to put whatever substance use they all do on Heather. It's not her responsibility. They're all grown adults, etc. But what I'm saying is that there could be some grain of truth to Monica's post. Am I going to take it at face value, like how Monica's trying to sell it? Like, oh, Heather's a drug dealer? No, I'm not taking it as that. That's ridiculous. But, the truth is probably somewhere kind of in the middle, or there's like, a smidge of it is true. But I take everything Monica says with a grain of salt because it's Monica. So we do have to keep that in mind, of course. Okay, everyone. That is the end of our episode for today. You have caught up on the Bravo news from last week. I have to say, since I kind of collected the news from last week and started recording this episode, I'm a little late with it because this episode should have come out last weekend. So a lot has happened. So if you're listening to this and you're like, Emily, why didn't you talk about this? It's coming. I have another episode coming like this week as well. Like, it's going to be doubled up, and all that stuff's going to be on there. Okay, so I promise I didn't forget about it. It's just, I kind of split it into two, so it's organized, and we'll have 2 episodes this first week of February. Because last week I was just really super, super busy at my regular job, so I couldn't get it together to do the episode. So thank you everyone for hanging in there and for your patience. And I hope you all had a great last week of January, a great first week of February, and you're now in the know for everything Bravo. Till next time. Bye.